Well, good morning. Welcome to day 3 at the SBS Boat Life here at the NEC, and welcome to the Salt stage. Caroline Dawson, SUP Lass. SUP Lass.
SUP Lass, yeah.
What's up, Lass? So, supping, stand-up paddleboarding. It's something I've from when I'm on the water, I look over and I go, sometimes I think that looks very gentle. Sometimes I think that looks really energetic. Sometimes I think that looks quite cold. Sometimes I think that's very romantic. So lots of different emotions that come from your sport. And where do you think you sit in that sort of list of stand-up paddleboarding?
I think with my sort of SUP Lass paddle adventures, and what I try and portray and share with people is I'm probably the sort of jack of all, master of none. So I like to look at all the different areas within paddleboarding. So a lot of people think about paddling as you buy a board, you buy a paddle, and you just go round your local lake or pond or maybe dabble on a river or on the sea. But actually, there's so much more to it. And I think what I've found with paddleboarding is that it's whatever you want to make of it. And it's a vehicle, it's a vessel that you can really push some boundaries with and explore some really cool places and do some really cool things.
Well, like drizzle honey on asparagus tips on your barbecue.
Yeah, like you do. So that day was actually, I cooked a full 4-course dinner on the side of the river, and I carried all of my kit. It was about 15 kilometres downriver. We just knocked up some food.
Looks pretty tasty. Well, I'm going to take you through your presentation. What's going on here? This looks like the start of a race.
So for me, SUP Lass Paddle Adventures is very much focused around women. So 96% of my clients are female. So this is a lot of what I do. This is my bread and butter work. So my bread and butter work is actually teaching people to stand up. That's the first thing people say. We can't stand up. I'm a little nervous of being on the water. So that's me on the River Dee. Instructing 2 ladies, and that's kind of what pays the bills. That's the main bread and butter of the business. But my grandmaster plan, is getting them from doing that to something a little bit more adventurous. So for me, in my head, a lot of the clients that come with me are on a journey with me. So they might start off doing the basics, but before they know it, they're out at sea or they're having a 4-course meal.
So talking about the basics, so if I were to come onto one of your courses and say, teach me how to... So tell me a little bit about the kit first, because you've got a bit of kit here. You've got a paddle. You've got some of the equipment.
Yeah.
What sort of... Obviously, I've got to get a board. I'm 6'7".
Yeah.
So I've got to get a board that's big enough for me.
Yeah, and there are options.
Good.
Yeah.
I've got to get a paddle.
Yeah.
I've seen all sorts of different, from wooden paddles to aluminium to carbon. Mm-hmm. And I've got to get some kit. Mm-hmm. We were talking about all sorts of different kit with our different suppliers that we've been speaking to at the show here. Is there anything specific about the kit you wear? I see people have got wetsuits and life jackets and trainers and...
Yeah, so in that image, I would say that's the kind of the bare bones, the bare basics of what you would have for SUP. So you've got your board, your paddle. We can have a massive discussion. We could probably talk for half an hour on leashes.
All about the kit and leashes.
We're not going to go down that route. But you've got a leash, and on all of these here, they've got quick release waste mechanisms, because that's actually filmed on a river. So if they fell off, there's actually a flow there. But yeah, that's the summer. That was a lovely day. It was 24, 25 degrees. We all went for a swim that day. But in the winter, we're flicking over to things like this.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I wear one of the Mustang dry suits, the Helix dry suits, and I'm in that probably 3 or 4 times a week at the moment. So I live in that and have a nice fleecy onesie underneath. So between my dry suit and then kit that I have, which is a bit lightweight for the summer, you've got sort of different options. So it means that actually I can paddle all year round. So that's what I want to champion, is actually paddle boards are for life, for the year. They're not just for the summer. They don't come out at April. They don't go in at October. We try and sort of promote people to stay and paddle and be on the water all year round.
And we do say in the boating fraternity, there's no such thing as bad weather. It's just bad kit.
Bad kit, exactly.
And we were talking to the guys from Mustang, and they really do have some fantastic kit. You get an opportunity. They're over there, down the end there. Lots of really good kit on their stand. So, okay, so I've got my board. I've got my kit, got my paddle, got my leash. What do I do next?
Come and have a lesson with SUP
Right.
Lass.
This looks pretty extreme.
So this is SUP Lass Extreme. So part of my journey at the moment, so I've done a lot of qualifications, and probably one thing I say to people, if you are going out, ask what qualifications people have. You know, are they up to the right standard? Are they doing things properly and safely? So my next qualification next month is I am sitting my assessment to be a whitewater coach. So this is kind of the next level up. So this is like grade 2 rapids. This is the local river next to me, the River Dee.
Because when I think of stand-up paddleboarding, I do not think of rapids.
Yeah, rapids.
Or weirs, or stoppers, or... So tell us a bit about this. It's really, really exciting.
So this is really exciting, and I say if you want to get your blood pumping, whitewater SUP certainly does that for you. So yeah, this is out on the River Dee. This is me actually just playing and attempting to catch a wave. I think I went for a swim, not far after this photo. But you kind of mix your gear. So if you can see, I've got my dry suit on, but I also wear knee pads. Underneath my dry suit, I wear some padded like snowboarding shorts to protect my bum. So you do end up hitting lots of rocks when you fall off and you go for your swims. So it's an amalgamation between sort of mountain biking, snowboarding, and then throwing a bit of white water and a bit of SUP. But it's really, really good. It gets your blood pumping and lots of adrenaline, and you learn so much. So it's a great discipline.
And Caroline, do you have a different type of board for this sort of more adventurous stuff?
Yes, so that's one thing people don't realise. When you go and buy your board, and a lot of people might go, you might buy one from a show today, or you might trot off down to Tesco and you might spend £200 or £300 on a board. That is just the start of it. 16 boards later, and a whole kind of plethora of kit. And my boards go from 9'6" right up to 14 foot. They also have all different jobs. So this is a white water board. This is 9'6". This board retail is about £1,000. It's got, if you look at it, a really big rocker on the nose. So that means I can catch waves, surf waves. If I'm sort of smashing through white water, it's a little bit more forgiving than the real sort of flat,
so the
pointy
bow
nose.
comes up.
Yeah. So you've got sort of a bit of a curve. And it's also got a little bit of a curve at the back, which makes it a nightmare to transport. I can't put it on the roof of the van because it's such a curve. It's like a banana, really. So... lots of different boards for different jobs.
Wow, absolutely amazing to think that you can be going into those sort of extreme conditions. And what do the canoeists and things feel like when they're there canoeing away? This is our weir, and you float down on that thing. Is it are they getting used to stand up coming down their patch?
I think so. So the River Dee now it's got a bit of a whitewater scene. So we have a whitewater SUP fest. So people are starting to see us on white water a little bit more. They really respect us because you think if you're in a little canoe, you're at water level, you're really super stable. Where we are, on our pins, for us it's all about managing our height. So anything that looks a bit dodgy, we drop to a knee or back to your knees, and then it's back up to your feet again.
Sense.
So rather than going for a swim, we want to manage our height. That's what we want to do. We want to try and keep safe. So that's kind of white water. And canoeists are very respectful of what we do.
Very good.
Yeah.
Now this looks so much more sedate. This looks like Scandinavia. Am I right?
Yeah, so that's actually the Baltic coast up in Sweden. So that's the Sankt Anna archipelago.
Now that is just the sort of terrain that you'd want to just meander around an adventure. Of course, it doesn't get dark until very late. Lots of lovely conditions, lots of lovely little creeks you can go down. Tell us about, was this a specific trip that you...
Yeah, so that was a trip. Myself, actually, my partner John over there did. So
hey, John.
There are 2 boards. This little hut is actually owned by the King of Sweden. And there's a bit of a story behind this. So we actually went, and I'd spent weeks planning this 2-week expedition. We were going to go round and see all these islands. We got there. First day, we thought, we'll go for a bit of a recce. Let's go and, just see what things are about, what the weather conditions, the rocks, etc. And we got chatting to somebody at a local chandlery, and they said, there's the King of Sweden. He's got this house. It's 15 kilometres offshore. If you can get permission, they'll tell you where the secret key's hidden, and you can stay the night. So I was like red rag to a bull. I was like, I've got to find this place. But it was like negotiating a local government, local council. So I had to ring up. Everything was in Swedish, trying to work out who I need to speak to. And I spoke to them on a Friday, and I said, look, I want to go to this island tomorrow. And it's like, well, the person, they're not in, they're on holiday, rah-de-rah-de-rah. But they sent me a text message, and we made it happen. And that was it. It was red light, off we went. Green light, off we went. And 2 days later, we got ourselves out to this island. So we did a stopover the night before. One of the challenging things you find when you're in the archipelago and paddling in these conditions, it looks really sort of serene, but winds kind of whip up about lunchtime.
Yeah,
so from
sea
1,
breeze.
2 o'clock onwards, it's unpaddleable. It's really quite choppy. So lots of early mornings. So we got here, and we had the most amazing stay on the island. There was a little compost loo. In the little hut, there's a wooden bed. We just had this most great time. We took some lovely English sparkling fizzy wine with us, and we had it, and it was like our own private island for a couple of days. So it was incredible. Yeah.
And you're hoping of getting a call from the King of Sweden to get a lesson.
Well, I was hoping, yeah. You never know. I thought he might just drop in. But, yeah, we've been there now, so, yeah.
And this was on the same trip, or?
That was the same trip. So, again, Sankt Dana. So, they're my boards. So, they're my touring boards. So, again, if you're buying a board, sort of a new paddle board, standard around sort of 10.6, 10.8, these guys are the heavyweights, really. They're sort of 12.8. Real sort of weight carriers. So on the front, I have one of these, a 35-litre bag. And then as well on the back, I'll put another 65-litre bag. So in 100 litres, I can carry my tent, all my camping gear, and I can be fully sustained for sort of 3 or 4 days, carry my water, etc. So those boards are designed to carry up to about 180, 200 kilos. They're quite hard to manoeuvre when they're fully loaded. But they're great, if you're just going out and wanting to do several days of adventures, yeah.
So we've covered the whitewater board,
Yeah.
and this more adventure touring board. Is there a board built for speed? How many other types of board are we looking at?
Yeah, I've got a speedy board. I think there's a picture of a speedy
Okay.
board. That's me on my speedy board.
Okay, so explain what the difference in shape. I imagine narrower, longer?
Yeah, so this board is 14 foot. It's also really narrow. So all of my white water board is 36 inches. My touring board is 31 inches. This is 26 inches. So as you can see, you want to go faster, you go narrower. Also, this one's hardboard. So
Okay.
it's not inflatable, this one.
And the turquoise bit, is that it? Is that for stabilization?
The turquoise.
This.
The front. I thought you meant the colour.
Yeah. Is it for?
Yeah, so that gives you your buoyancy at the front, so the extra volume in terms of stability, and it also helps. You can't really see it well from here, but it's a very pointy nose, so any bit of chop or anything like that, it'll.
So if you were racing that, you wouldn't have those floats on the side.
Oh, there's no floats on there.
Okay. I'm trying to see how. The actual shape of that thing.
So it's kind of like bulbous at the front, and then at the back it's a much streamlined lower deck pad. So that was on the River Conway up in North Wales. So it was a race called the Conway Ascent. So that was me going for it.
Now it seems like quite a sociable thing, but also something you can do. Is it ever very wise to go on your own?
No, and even myself, I've been doing it for a good number of years. I very rarely go out on my own, and it may be a couple of little places that I know I'm very happy with. But the bigger paddles that I do, more adventurous paddles, you would definitely need somebody else with you. And
we'll come to safety in a minute.
We'll talk about safety.
What's going on here?
So that's me last summer, I think. We have like women's events. So we do a lot with a lady called the Plus Size Paddler. So I think we had a day last year where we had 24 ladies on the water, all talking about confidence, getting back on their board, water safety. So that was me doing a demo of how to prone paddle. So if you lose your board or you have a problem with your paddle, you just lie on your front like a surfboard and just use your arms to sort of propel yourself and to come back in. So just a safety technique. But I just thought it was, I was having a really good day. And
Well, last summer was such a hot one. sometimes it was the only option was to get on the water and get wet.
Yeah.
Again, such good fun. I think you're a pretty good cook here. I think you could do a cooking and stand-up show in itself. God, that looks good. So that, I guess you're just sort of saying that it's a way of life, not just a piece of, athletic kit. It's adventures, it's food, it's drink, it's friends.
It is. It's all of that. And before I was kind of doing my SUP Lass stuff a bit more permanently, I was actually, my background is the food and drink industry, sort of agriculture and food. So cooking and working with really good local producers has always kind of been in my blood. So for the last 20 years, food is my thing. So what I've been slowly doing now is stitching that into my paddleboarding.
Brilliant.
And we do these lovely sup and cook experiences where we get people out, all of these ingredients, we try and get sort of seasonal, local, and get people to cook from fresh. So boil in the bags, they're really miserable. So why have a boil in the bag when actually you could have some really nice lamb pitters, and we've made like an apple crumble and have a nice beer and sit on the side of the river. And yeah, make a really lovely experience of it. So I take my clients and they all get jobs, so they'll get a knife and a chopping board and we get them all preparing food.
I'm definitely coming with you. Well, that's fantastic. And yeah, another brew and a very friendly, smiley face.
I don't think Joe knew that I was going to put this slide in. Joe's on the front here, by the way. So
and Joe was one of our guests last year at Boat Life, and
So I've got a bit of a reputation. So if anybody follows me on social media, I've got a reputation of taking a Kelly kettle everywhere I go. So if you've not heard of a Kelly kettle, it's the sort of silver vessel at the front there. And it's what they used in Ireland probably about 120 or so years ago to make brews for the wealthy English who came over to fish their rivers. And it's a real mainstay. So it's a way of actually boiling a lot of water with just a handful of sticks. It's really, really, portable. Everything all fits inside it. And it's a lovely bit of kit that's really got a bit of wow factor. So my clients always love a hot chocolate when they come out. So yeah, that's the Kelly kettle. With Jo, I took Jo as part of her book around the Great Orme in North Wales. We went on a really big paddle. So yeah, that's us just stopping off and having a little hot chocolate and yeah, enjoying a brew really. So I'm known for my sups and brews. Yeah.
All right, absolutely. Talk about the fraternity. We talk about Jo joining you on a trip there. What's the fraternity? So if I were to, so for example, I'm from Chichester Harbour. And if I wanted to come up and find another neck of the woods, how would I be received?
Oh, I think the paddleboarding community is lovely. And everybody, it's actually quite a small community. And it's still in its development stage. Paddleboarding is very young still as a sport. So everybody's really supportive. They help one another, really welcoming. So you shouldn't feel, out of sorts going somewhere new. I think if you looked a couple of people up in the area and said, look, I'm coming up with my board, or I'd like to go on a trip, or I'll have a bit of a lesson, you'll find some good sort of reputable people. And again, just asking about qualifications and who's sort of good to go out with. And yeah, you'd be welcome with open arms up to North Wales. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And also speaking to Jo last year, who's just really starting her journey, and you have a very big presence online. Talk about your social and how important that is to you and your marketing and getting information and connecting with other people in your sport. Just talk about how important that is.
So social media has been massive really for the growth of SUP Lass Paddle Adventures, and it started off as SUP Lass, just as me documenting some of my paddles, and then it grew and then it became a business page, and then we sort of started connecting with different people. So it's actually enabled me to link up with people like Jo, plus size paddler, different people from around kind of the UK. And yeah, I've had people contact me and we've gone on paddles. It's been a great way to explore other parts of the UK and actually overseas as well. I've connected with people in Sweden, over in Spain, Norway. So we've got some really exciting adventures. I've had somebody this week even contact me from over in the northwest corner of France asking about coming over and doing some trips with them for next year. So it's a real great way of kind of connecting. And what's been really lovely, because SUP Lass Paddle Adventures started out as just me, And this year, just in the last month or so, we've just taken on our first person. So we've actually got a year 2 Loughborough University student working with us to help me with some of the design and the video. Because I've got to a point now with it where I think I've created a bit of a monster, a bit of a beast. And you feel
Needs
like
feeding.
It needs feeding all the time.
Yeah.
So I've got somebody now just to help me and organise me a little bit better. Yeah.
We all need that. As far as where stand-up paddleboarding is going, a lot of people I don't see you as a competitive person overly, but I can imagine that there is always that, I'll race you, that headland, I'll get there before you. Do you see it turning into, or already, is it a sport that could maybe end up at the Olympics or something like that? Has it got that direction as well, and going down that road?
Yeah, so for those some of you may or may not know, there's kind of GB SUP, so there is actually a really well-established race scene in the UK. So they have sort of sprint races, they have longer distance, more kind of technical races, plus there's quite a few race challenges, so I've completed things like the Trent 100.
So these are set distances that you can go on?
You'll do a set distance.
Around the island or...
So it could be around the island or it could be a certain distance. So I'm trying to think what I've done. I've done the Trent 100. We were in Paris actually before Christmas, racing down the Seine, which was supposed to be a leisurely paddle. And I think I finished 26 out of, it was about 200 women, so I was quite chuffed with that.
And you were going for it.
Yeah, and I wasn't even on a race board.
Yeah.
So it got a little bit competitive. And I've done the Great Glen as well, so that's the race across Scotland. So there are more of those kind of races coming out. So yeah, there is sort of competition there. There is things there that people can get involved with, depending on, again, whatever you want to make of it, really. And age is not a barrier with SUP, which is lovely.
Yeah, it sounds like it's something you can slot into anywhere, any age, any place. I see a lot of kit strewn around here. Is that obviously a good bag, good waterproof bag is essential?
Yeah, so having plenty of kit is vital, really, and I've had to. Originally, it just started off as a board and a bit of kit in a spare bedroom, and now it's turned into a full-on. What have I got? Like a box trailer in the garden, and there's always something drying or hanging or you name it, something in the washing machine. So, yeah, there's lots and lots of kit involved with paddleboarding.
Let's talk about safety on that. So obviously, a leash is really essential to make sure you don't get separated from your board, and safety within kit that you wear, as we can see the stuff from Mustang. It's really important that you stay in the right condition, that you don't get hypothermic, etc., or overheat. Life jacket, that's obvious.
Yeah.
Always wear a life jacket. You talked about padding, looking after your knees and bumps and bruises if you're going to be in a more rocky area. Do you let people know where you're going when you...
Yeah, so even if it's like little plans that I do personally, I always make sure... I tell John where I've been, or I've got like a tracker as well that I have on my phone.
I was going to ask you about a tracker, GPR tracker.
So I have like my Garmin, I use a paddle logger, different things. I also, if I'm out on the sea, I also always carry VHF, so I carry my radio, always log my trips in with the Coast Guard.
Great.
And they've got to know me now in Holyhead. They're like, oh, it's SUP Lass, where are you going today? So they know me.
Would you take a flare?
I carry a flare, yeah. So my kit bag, or actually the one in the screen, I don't use that as much anymore. I use this one. But with this, I've got things like repair kits, flares, radio, full set of kind of spares, spare fin, bit of food, a drink, some gloves, hat. And I carry stuff not only for myself, but also for my group as well.
Others, yeah.
And loads of sort of contact information. So everything's got tags on it. It's got my name on it. So it's really important if you do have boards, and particularly on the coast, that things are labelled.
Well, we were talking about that with someone from the Coast Guard, an independent RNLI Coast Guard, and he was saying that they found a sail off a kite surfer, the kite, and it wasn't labelled, and so they did a full search and rescue. And if they just had a mobile number in it, because he was actually safe and sound back at home, and he just lost his kite and wrote it off. and yet there were many people looking for him. So just label it so they can at least call
Yeah.
and say, you've lost your paddle, are you okay?
Yeah.
So yeah. No, good point. Anything else I've missed as far as safety goes?
No, I think the two real key things has to be a really good buoyancy aid. So making sure, you've got a good buoyancy aid. It's from a reputable supplier. So looking at, brands. I had some horror shows last year, so I had clients turning up with sort of $18.99 Amazon specials.
And dog walking jackets.
Oh, you see it all, I tell you.
Yeah.
And then they fall in the water and you realise, so I'm very, very on it about sort of checking kit. I won't take anybody out until I've looked at everything they've got. If it's not good enough, I swap stuff out and I give them better things.
And do go and have a chat to the guys at Mustang. They're on this line here, back that end of the hall. Mustang apparel, really, really good stuff.
It's fantastic. I've been with Mustang for the last 12 months.
Yeah.
And I actually met them at this show 12 months ago.
Brilliant.
So it's kind of a full circle, really. But they're dry suits. They've been operating for, over 50 years. And they are some mega bits of kit. If you're looking for a dry suit, I'm not saying it just because I'm ambassador. I've used a lot of different bits of kit. And they are pretty rocking, yeah.
So this looks like a very happy group, and all carrying trugs. So that's in you give them all the kit in the front of the trug.
Yeah, so I am a trustee for It Shouldn't Be in the D. So it's a trust that looks after our local river. And what I do is paddleboard litter picks. So we actually go out and
fill the trug with litter.
Fill the truck with litter, weird and wonderful. So it's kind of doing our little bit for the community.
Well done.
Yeah, they kind of come out. It's free for them to attend. I provide all the kit. And they go out and we do different stretches of the D. So we tackle different stretches that have got different issues. So yeah, a couple of the things that I do in terms of like charity and stuff is obviously I work with It Shouldn't Be in the D campaign. I'm also an RNLI water safety advisor, so I go around a lot of schools and we talk about water safety, looking at different key messaging. So that's another little role that I do. So it's all about kind of supporting people, getting them out on the water, and actually giving something back as well.
And you must be also a massive ambassador just for our environment. I've talked to all of my guests here on the Salt stage about the environment, about water quality, about sustainability. We've got recycled material that is now being used in clothes from Ocean R. So, you must be seeing that as well. I mean, tell us a little bit about how you see that.
So part of what I've done as my role as SUP Lass is I've become a sort of Leave No Trace trainer.
Yeah.
So Leave No Trace is massive over in sort of Canada, North America. Less so in the UK, but it's a bit like the Countryside Code in a sense. So it's got sort of 7 principles where we talk about respecting the environment. So what I try and do is stitch that into all of my sessions.
Yeah.
So I think about my kit. So I try and buy the best quality kit, so we're not buying twice. We recycle everything. We sort of think about the drinks that I serve. Everything we do, we try and think of it in a sustainable way. Then when we're out on the river, we talk about water quality. And I've had lots of challenges where people will say, I'm not coming on that stretch of the D because I heard there was something flagged up on Surfers Against Sewage on the little app and said that they've been on the release. So anything we can do about raising the profile of the environments we paddle in, the history, the challenges, the wildlife, anything we can do like that, it just makes that connection and understanding stronger with our clients.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. You just mentioned wildlife. Tell us the most amazing thing that you've ever seen while out, sort of early in the morning or late, just in the evening. Have you seen otters or kingfishers or?
So yes, I have seen otters. I saw an otter this week. I'll tell you a little bit of story about otters. So Craig, who's on the front row here, he also likes otter spotting on the River Severn. So we have a little challenge between who sees more otters on the D or the River Severn. So I was actually out with Craig yesterday paddling on the Severn, and we went to Otter Island. And did we see an otter, Craig? No. Kaz, who was paddling on the River D on Tuesday, I was just doing some of my white water stuff. Oh, there's just an otter there, you know, casually bobbing about. So you do see little bits
And
of
I guess
wildlife.
because you don't have an engine on behind you, you know, you're so much quieter, so much more, you know, just more undercover, I guess.
Yeah, you do. You kind of be in sort of stealth mode, and you can kind of, you can kind of creep up on like animals and different things. But it's also important as well, and I just want to add this, that particularly with like paddling and being out on the sea, I did a course a few years ago, and it's all about respecting wildlife. It's a WISE course. So understanding, you know, giving, you know, dolphins, seals, porpoises, making sure, you know, give the distance, breeding with birds, etc. So I also think about making sure I don't impact those animals. So sometimes you find yourself in an environment and you're sharing that with them, but are you stressing them? Are you there when it's breeding time?
Yeah.
So just being kind of mindful of that, and again, trying to communicate that with my clients. So sometimes we have seals that will come up, and I've had a seal nibble my paddle and nudge my board. We've seen porpoises, we've seen minke whale up in Scotland as well. So it's giving them that room and respect, and understanding that environment that they are. So yeah.
Now, just before we wrap up, from the audience, have we got any questions for Caroline? Come on, we must have a question. Go on, Joe.
So
Sorry, what was that question? Your dream location.
Well, I think I've found my dream location. So this year, it's kind of blown me away, actually. But I'm actually going to be part of the crew working for SUP Norway this year. So I'll be out guiding in Norway, taking groups of people out. So for me, working for SUP Norway, which is probably one of the most well-established and well-known global paddleboarding holiday companies, is just, you know, a great opportunity. So it's a way that I wouldn't really describe it as work. I'm going out there to paddle in an amazing environment and actually share it with other people. So yeah, Norway this year. So I've made that happen. And who knows really? I think there's some big paddles. I've got some. There's something brewing anyway in me to do a really big paddle. So
well, that was leading on to my question. Joe sort of stole my direction there, because my question was going to be our final question today. Was going to be what's like. So when we see you this time next year at Boat Life, what will you be telling us all about? So and obviously you'll be telling us about your Norway trip. But can you tell us about this other plan that you have?
My other grand master plan. It's a big paddle. It's a big paddle, and it's going to encompass quite a lot of the UK.
Okay.
But in a way, probably, not known by many.
So watch this space.
So watch this space. There's something I've been working on behind the scenes, which
that's exciting.
I'm hoping to, if I can make it happen, it'll be back end of this summer, early autumn. And it will probably involve being on the water for about 50 to 60 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope you've got a good support team.
Or if anybody wants to sponsor me, no.
So I was going to say...
Yeah, it's a big paddle.
If you've been inspired by Caroline here, please like, subscribe and support and follow you. I've really enjoyed following all our Boat Life ambassadors. We've got a chat later on stage with all our ambassadors from Boat Life, so do come along for that. Caroline, thank you so much for sharing your incredible stories about your adventures and all the great work you do. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for coming to listen. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Brilliant. We'll see you later. Thank you.